everyone, and thank you for joining us for Joy in Our Town. I'm Aaron Motley. Joy in Our Town brings you information regarding the issues and problems we face in our local communities in hopes of finding some solutions. On the first portion of our program today, we're going to talk about youth, and we have with us in the studio Dr. Tommy Stewart, and she's the Director of Theater and Arts Department at Alabama State University, and also we have with us Yohannes Miles, and he is the camp instructor, and we're going to talk to them today about young people and theater and arts, and we appreciate you being with us on the program today.
Thank you.
And you're going to talk to us about an arts or camp that we're going to be dealing with in just a few minutes. But first of all, Dr. Stewart, I'd just like to talk to you about what you feel concerning young people and some of the problems that they're facing these days. What's going on with many young people right now? What do you see?
Well, what I see in our immediate community and across the nation is a lack of a foundation. Our young people are not given enough background information to understand their growth and the trials that others have gone through to get us where we are today. So when we present information to young people today and say, oh, you should try this and you should believe in yourself, we're not telling them enough. We're giving them the surface and we're not giving them the foundation. The foundation is understanding that, first of all, you're God's child. Second of all, that in your spiritual being, loving yourself means respecting yourself. Respecting yourself means honoring yourself. Honoring yourself means honoring your family, your father, your mother, honoring your community, taking pride in who you are, where you've come from, and how far you've come as a people, be it of any nationality. Because wherever we are today, it is a triumph over yesterday. And I think that that's one of the things that our young people need more of.
And without this kind of foundation, where do they end up?
Without this foundation, you continue to wonder. There's a play called Waiting for Godot that deals with existentialism, that talks about being suspended in time, having no beginning and no ending. And when you are at that point in your knowledge of yourself and your community and your world, you have no idea where you can go. You have no idea of your dream. So what happens? Our young men will walk around with their britches hanging down. They look like they're giving up on tomorrow because they're wearing that accordion hem pants, and they're not fitting them and seeing that they can grow up to be a man. They have no vision. So how will you have that when you don't know where you've come from? You don't even know where you are, and you have no way of knowing where you're going. So that's what happens. They just do whatever it feels like that's good for the moment.
But you're seeing some changes, and that's what we're looking at today. How can theater and art really play a role in their lives to bring them to that point of where they can see vision for the future?
Well, the first thing we do in theater and in the arts as a whole, even with music, the whole idea is to believe first that I am somebody, to reckon with who am I? Who really am I? Not just my name, not just my race, not just my sex, but who am I? In other words, what am I about? What do I have to contribute to the world? What am I good at? What do I do just from instinct that pleases others and helps others to smile? What gift am I? Who am I? What do I have to offer? So we start with that, with understanding yourself, appreciating yourself, acknowledging yourself, validating yourself, not waiting for your buddies who just grew up with you and they're the bully in the group telling you that you are good or you are bad or that you are nobody, and them validating you, but validate yourself.
Validating yourself through the arts, does that mean that you begin to bring out of yourself the gifts, the talents and abilities that sometimes you don't even realize you have?
You don't realize you have, and then when you realize you have it, then you say, okay, this is what I'm really good at. I really like doing this. This is what I'm about. This is who I am. And with that point of discovery, then you can go out and challenge and compete and compare yourself with the rest of the world.
Have you seen them begin to produce
yes.
better as far as academics are
There's
concerned?
one right here.
All
Yes.
right.
This is a student of mine. He's in his senior year.
Mm-hmm.
When he came as a freshman, he came with a sense of awareness,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like a superseded thing. It was like a facade. It was like, I'm going to present myself like I am this.
Mm.
But then the more we worked together, he started finding that I am. Is that
Johan,
right?
tell me a little bit about your story.
Yeah, the arts. The arts is has a way of allowing you to really focus in on true things about yourself.
What were you thinking about yourself before? What was going on before you got involved?
Well, we sometimes live by the world standards. Of course, like she mentioned about your friends, we have these ideas of what other people think we should be and who we are. But with the arts, I was allowed to really have a deeper search for talents and gifts, and even just a personal relationship of really understanding my life.
Okay.
And being able to express, especially being a male, we sometimes have this hardness about ourselves, and art allows you, or theater as a whole allows you to really channel different things and try different things to, whether it be through song, whether it be through acting, dance, drawing, writing. So
yes.
it's different venues you can definitely take. And
It's amazing how so many people have downplayed theater and arts as being important, but we can see here that it plays a vital part in many young people's lives.
Well, we teach that theater mirrors life, and it's a reflection. It gives you a chance to stand back and look at life as it is, to see some of the troubles of life, and then some of the joys of life. And at the same time, you find yourself fitting in, and you discover that I'm not so bad. And I can sing, I speak well, I can look at people and tell them something, I can read a story and make little children feel joy and help their imaginations grow. So that's what our summer camp is all about.
you'll really be surprised. Starting at the age of 6, TAPS program starts from 6 to 12.
Okay.
But at the age of 6, and of course, even before that, as children, we record everything that we see in our lives. And there are a lot of issues at home and in society. And at the age of 6, you'd be surprised at some of the things that they write, some of the things they want to talk about but they can't express because at home there's abuse, or they're told to shut up and be quiet, or just sit down and don't try this, yes. And they're not allowed. Certain communities that they're growing up in, they're not allowed. There's not enough venues or things that they can get involved in.
Yeah.
So this program has definitely enlightened children, not just in Alabama. You're talking about Tennessee, Georgia, Florida,
Korea.
They come from
Korea.
all these
Yes.
places to
Yes.
the camp. What's the name of this camp that you're talking about?
Well, the first one is TAPS for
The
ages
TAP,
6 to
okay.
12. But in Camp 3T, which is age 12 to 18, which starts later on in June. And then, of course, now we have an adult camp called RPAC. Because the parents started saying, we want to do some of this. My child is a different child because they came to this camp. We've had camp participants from as far away as Japan and Korea, couldn't speak any English, participate in Camp 3T. And I tell you, when it was time to go home at the ending performance, tears were everywhere. Everybody was embracing. It was just it's a beautiful experience. And it's a very spiritual experience. It's a lot of enlightenment, the kind of thing where you get to see yourself, feel yourself, know yourself. And with the Camp 3T, we move in the dorm. The camp teachers, the participants, we're all in the dorm, we eat in the dining hall, and we're there with them night and day, and we work with them closely. And we have had a wonderful track record. Some of the students that started with TAPS, which begins on June 4th of this week, of this month, June 4th through the 16th for age 6 to 12, are now graduates of high school and college since we started the camp. And their track record speaks for itself. Little Aaron Washington, where is she going? She's going off to graduate school now. I believe she's going to be in California.
That's
Charlie
wonderful.
Hudson and Ramar Marshall, and now at
Nice.
Brown University.
Well, who knows? Some of them you'll probably end up seeing in film somewhere.
Well, we
And-
do.
Yeah. Oh,
yes,
wow.
so the children, we have
Okay.
about 6 children who've already had starring roles in film.
Great, great.
Yeah.
And what is it doing for them as far as leadership is concerned?
A lot. Do you see leadership comes from being able to follow, being able to listen, being able to speak, and being able to think on your feet. And we have a great track record of that with these young people that we've worked with.
All right,
Yes.
wonderful. What can you see the future holds for some other children? I mean, I'm sure you're seeing still that there are those, as Dr. Stewart mentioned a moment ago, that guys still walking the streets with not knowing who they really are, and maybe with the same mentality that you may have had at one time. Look into the future for Montgomery. What do you see?
If we can continue to have more children involved in what's been going on at Alabama State University with this camp program, because really most of the children, throughout the season when they're in school's their attention. It's really during this summer when it's trying to find things to do where we go back and pick up old habits and
Yes.
we meet old people, and so if we could continue, Montgomery's on the rise. I mean, and it's even wider than just the children. It's the parents. Parents will begin to see their dreams. Some parents live their dreams through their children, and then begin to see the life in their children that the children have, and parents are going home and they're excited and they're writing and they're beginning to have visions and support. We have a lot of parents who support the camps, and they're calling. They're more excited about the camps than the children are. They are.
All right. How many are involved in, I guess, all the programs put together? Do you
About
know?
350.
About 300 at one time? Okay.
All together.
All together.
175 in TAPS and 175 in Camp 3T.
Okay, and this is taking place at Alabama State University?
Alabama
Yes.
State University,
On
the
the
Theater
campus.
Arts Department. Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Anything else y'all like to add concerning the whole idea of children getting involved in arts and
Well, if they can't participate in the camp, we invite them to come to the final performances. And we have 2 performances because they're so well attended. The first performance with TAPS will be on June the 16th, and on July 1 will be the final performance for Camp 3T. And on July 9th will be the final performance for the adult camp. So we invite the public to come and see the growth of these children and hear them express themselves. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience. And to all young people who are not involved in the camp, I hope that they hear us here in knowing that it's so important to first love yourself, to find the God in yourself so that you can touch the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Stewart.
Thank
Well
you.
said.
Okay.
Thank you, Johan, for being with
Thank
us on
you.
the program today. And we thank you for joining us for this portion of Joy in Our Town. But don't go away. We'll be right back. There's more to come right after this. Welcome back, and we are still talking about youth, and we have with us Linda Tilley, and she's the Executive Director of Voices for Alabama Children, and she's here to talk to us about ways to improve the lives of children and families in Alabama. Voices works to accomplish a mission of keeping a decent childhood for every child in the state, and we thank you for being with us on Joy in Our Town.
Thank you.
Linda, I understand that this is an advocacy group, and also that your work as far as research is concerned to find out what's going on with children in Alabama. First of all, tell us about some of the trends that you are seeing.
Well, there's actually good news. Overall, in child well-being, we are seeing Alabama improving, and that's not only good news for children, but it's certainly good news for communities and families, and ultimately for business in this state, because how our children do is going to be a big indicator of how well we do overall as a state.
Okay.
So yes, good news. Well-being is improving.
Well, wonderful, and we'd like to think that we could attribute much of that to the work that you all are doing and what you're lobbying for in the legislature and getting some laws that will improve the lives of children. Can you tell us about some of the things that have happened in the past that you all were able to see some benefits and improvement?
Absolutely. You know, and I just want to preface this by saying that it takes several things for children to do well, and we all know that the family is so important, and things start there. Nurturing families are key. Communities play a great role, and you know, I did Girl Scouts when I was a child, and I bet you can think about the wonderful community programs that you were a part of when you were a child. So community's important, but the state does have a role to play as well, and so Voices works at that state level with the state legislature to see that we jump in and do the things that can be done on a statewide level. For instance, many of your viewers may be familiar with All Kids, the child health insurance program. Alabama was the first state to implement and take advantage of this program that the federal government actually started, and it's because there were advocates like Voices at the legislature pushing for that, saying, yes, we need to put some of our resources aside to provide health care access for children whose families don't have health insurance. Over the years, too, we saw that we had a very high child death rate, preventable death rate, compared to other states, and we said, why is that? We did some investigation. Research is a big part of what we do. Nobody seemed to know, and so we looked to what other states were doing and found that a child death review process could help us see trends and ways to prevent future deaths, and we worked to have a law implemented that puts in place a child death review system, and after that started up and came into effect, we reduced preventable child deaths by nearly 25%.
Okay.
So having advocates at the State House and in that legislative process is for sure making a difference for our children and families.
All right.
And that's what we do.
Okay, apparently so. And we would like to find out some of the reasons why you think it's important to have advocacy groups and people who will intervene in the lives of children. I suppose that they can't do it for themselves, but they need somebody there. But tell us, what things are you seeing that they, you know, where we need those improvements, and why is it important to have groups like this?
Well, you're right. Children can't speak for themselves. You know, we often look at the elderly or others who don't have as much power. Certainly children don't have power and influence, and so they need parents and other advocates to speak for them. One of the areas that we see where we could do a lot in this state is in the first few years of life. We know from new research nationally and internationally that brain development is just absolutely explosive in the first 5 years of life. And so what happens to children during those times is very important. And again, you know, I mentioned nurturing families, but a lot of children are in child care. In this state, we have nearly 60% of women with children under age 5 who work. So the child care programs that we provide in the state would be very important. Preschool opportunities, you know, some of the states around Alabama provide that, and yet right now we're only serving about 2% of 4-year-olds. So that would be something that we might be working for in the future as well.
Okay. Tell us some of the trends that you find as far as children in poverty, or the poverty counties.
Well, actually, unfortunately, over the last few years, we have seen statewide an increase in the number of children in poverty, but I was looking at this tri-county area around Montgomery and was interested to see that Elmore and Autauga counties really have much lower levels of child poverty than do other states. In fact, Autauga has just about the lowest in the state, and Elmore's not too far behind. But then when I looked at Montgomery County, I was not happy to see that 25% of our children live in poverty. And certainly these children have opportunities for success, but that just means that we as community members, though, need to make sure that the programs that will help them succeed, the Boys and Girls Clubs, the after-school mentoring programs, and all of those things are in place.
Okay. You mentioned there should be some things in place, but what is contributing to a lot of the poverty that do you see?
Well, you know, I'm not honestly sure that I can answer that question. Sometimes the data that we get really are not the answers to the questions, but that are just sort of jumping off points for us to ask the questions. Why? And, you know, when we see that the state has the lowest unemployment rate that we've had in years, when we see that we're actually below the national average on unemployment, it does make you wonder why we have so many children in poverty. And I can't answer that question.
I see.
But I think there are community members who could. I don't know if you or your viewers are aware that every county by law has a children's policy council, and part of their job is to ask these questions and find the actual answers in the particular community or county.
Okay, great. Well, we'll move on from there to looking at then even what about the dropout rate?
Interesting that you should ask, because certainly education plays a key role in the success of children. As a state, Alabama is improving in dropout rate as a whole. And I was very pleased to see that Montgomery County is doing very well in that regard. One of the measures that we detail in this Alabama Kids Count data book that we publish, Montgomery County is among the top 20 counties in the state, and I think that's something we should celebrate as far as something that we are doing very well. On the other hand, when I started looking at the region and looked at Autauga and Elmore County, I was very surprised to see that they were among some of the counties that were not doing so well. In fact, a very high dropout rate in Elmore County. And if I were living there, that's one of the questions I would want to ask. Why is that, and what can we do about it? Because as you know, education is such a key to success. We don't want any of our children dropping out.
Yes, yes. And of course, once you get the answers to what is it, how do you do it, then you go and lobby the legislature to make some changes. Right now, do you have some things that's pending?
Well, of course, the legislative session has just wrapped up. One of the things that we spent a lot of time working on was the child passenger safety law in Alabama, because we had seen that our preventable child death rate, while we had lowered it tremendously, was still higher than some other states, and the single biggest cause of deaths among children under 8 was car crashes.
Wow.
As we started looking into the car seat laws, we realized that Alabama's was not very strong, and so we worked to change that. And for your viewers who have young children, they should know that thanks to the work of Voices and the American Academy of Pediatrics, the state PTA, and a number of other groups, that law is going to change. And it's going to specify that children up to 1 year of age and 20 pounds need to be in those rear-facing infant seats. Children up to 5 have to be in toddler seats, and then up to age 6 need to be in booster seats, and all children up to age 15 need to wear their seat belts. Of course, everybody should wear a seat belt anyway, I think.
But this is not just looking at their size, but their age.
There are some weights specified in the bill as well.
Okay.
For age 1 and 20 pounds for the infant seats, then age 5 and 45 pounds for the toddler seats.
Okay, great. Well, we're just about to run out of time, but maybe you can tell us a little bit about the future of things that maybe Voices is working toward.
Well, we are partnering with a number of other agencies to put together a state resource database that I think people will see in the future of where in every county to go for the programs that will help their children. Also, as I mentioned, we know that emphasis on the first 5 years of life can mean tremendous future success for children. So we're going to be working to see that our state provides quality child care for families who need it, and perhaps one day even more preschool opportunities across the board, whether it's in school settings or faith-based, nonprofit, but that every child has a chance to get ready for school. We've got that wonderful reading initiative. When we get there, we want them to be ready when they arrive at the schoolhouse door.
Linda Tilley, thank you so much for what you're doing with Voices, and keep on sounding for the kids of Alabama. We appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, we are out of time for this week's Joy in Our Town, and we hope that you'll join us again next week at the same time. We'll be right here. Bye-bye.